You know, Jimmy Carter stands as a model of what it means to live a life of meaning and purpose, a life of principle, faith, and humility.
When you think about Jimmy Carter, you think about love, country, and your desire to help the public.
He's had such a full life, and we've prepared for this for so long that it really just kind of felt like closing a book.
Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States, has died at the age of 100. Thanks for joining us tonight at 11. I'm John Adams. Carter's death came after a February 2023 announcement that he had decided to enter hospice care and spend his remaining time at home with family after a series of short hospital stays. Mark Barger reports.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
Jimmy Carter personified the American dream, rising from farm life in the rural South to become the 39th President of the United States. He was born and raised in the small hamlet of Plains, Georgia. After serving in the U.S. Navy, he returned home to Plains and made a success of the family's peanut farm. He also met Rosalind Smith, the woman who became not only his wife, but his closest advisor. Carter began his political career as a Georgia state senator before winning the governorship.
The time for racial discrimination is over.
He ordered a portrait of Martin Luther King Jr. displayed in the Georgia Capitol.
My name is Jimmy Carter, and I'm running for president.
Carter's 1974 campaign for the White House began as the longest of long shots. In the wake of Watergate and Vietnam, his appeal as a straight-shooting Washington outsider grew, and he narrowly defeated Gerald Ford in 1976. The Carter presidency was highlighted by the Camp David Agreement, bringing a once unthinkable peace between Egypt and Israel. But economic recession and high interest rates crippled Carter's term in office, and the Iranian hostage crisis devastated it. Americans grew frustrated with Carter's handling of the situation, including an aborted rescue attempt that eroded confidence in his leadership. Republicans capitalized in 1980 as Ronald Reagan's sunny optimism ended Carter's re-election bid with a resounding victory. But from that defeat, a remarkable second act. Private citizen Carter began a new career, helping build homes for the poor in America, making Habitat for Humanity an international name, even while focusing on global humanitarian causes. In 2002, Jimmy Carter won the coveted Nobel Peace Prize. But in 2015, at the age of 90, he announced he was diagnosed with melanoma, which had spread to his brain.
I was surprisingly at ease. You know, I've had a wonderful life. I've had thousands of friends.
Carter underwent cancer treatment and recovered, remaining active well into his 90s, teaching Sunday school at his South Georgia church. Even after suffering a series of falls, Carter's resilience allowed him to continue building homes for Habitat.
I'd say peace and human rights and treating everybody the same has been what I hope will be my legacy.
By the end of his life, Jimmy Carter had won the deep respect and admiration of not only Americans, but people around the world. Mark Barger, NBC News.
Well, the tributes have been coming in from across the country and the political spectrum. Many commenting not just on his presidency, but his life of service and the values he stood for. Habitat for Humanity said they're grateful for the impact the Carters had on their group and credit the Carters for putting them on the map. The former president was also no stranger to Portland in the Pacific Northwest. Here's a look back at some of his visits to the area from our KGW archives.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Jimmy Carter visited the Portland area numerous times before, during, and after his presidency. KGW cameras were there in 1976 as the rising political star visited the City Club of Portland during his presidential campaign.
Who are you going to vote for?
Carter.
How about you?
Ford.
Carter would lose the state of Oregon by a razor-thin margin of less than 2,000 votes in November of '76, but still won enough electoral votes across the country to secure the White House. He returned to the area 5 times during his presidency, including a visit in May of 1978. Carter spoke at the Hilton Hotel, where he announced federal funding for projects in Northwest Portland and Swan Island.
Through the Economic Development Administration, $12 million will be provided during the next 18 months to strengthen Portland's economy and to create 6,000 more private jobs in your community.
During the trip, Carter stayed the night at the home of Paul and Janet Olson in Portland's Irvington neighborhood.
Carter, welcome to our home. I think I'm going to have a good time here.
The Olsons told KGW the day after the visit, the president read to their children that night before joining them for a late-night snack.
We offered him some smoked salmon and some home-baked bread, and it was a recipe that I had never tried before, and he complimented me highly on it. He was such a warm, easy man to be with. It was all worth it.
This is the room where President Carter slept.
Our Devin Haskins spoke with the couple in 2023.
I didn't sleep at all. I mean, the idea of the president being in your home next door was, it was very exciting.
The 39th president also visited the Pacific Northwest in challenging times. He was here in 1980 to survey the damage in the aftermath of the Mount St. Helens eruption.
One of the most devastating natural explosions that our nation has ever known.
Carter's visits to the Rose City would continue after his presidency, even into the last decade. In 2014, the Georgia native made a stop at Powell's to sign copies of his book on women's rights. And in June of 2018, he made a surprise visit to Multnomah Falls with his wife Rosalind, as the Benson Bridge reopened for the first time since the Eagle Creek fire. The Carters marveled at one of our most treasured landmarks and took time to visit the gift shop.
And what did you think of the falls?
Beautiful, yeah, great.
Thank you very much.
Higher than I thought it was. Very nice.
Well, President Biden has scheduled Carter's state funeral for January the 9th. The Carter Center said the late president had requested that those who are wishing to honor his memory do so through acts of service to humanity. For more details on Carter's visit to Oregon, plus all of the statements from lawmakers, visit our website at kgw.com. Well, transitioning now to weather, we saw scattered showers in Portland today, while that snow continued to just pummel the Cascades. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri joining us now. Joe, any chance we might see even a little break from the rain on Monday?
There will be, and that's a good way to describe the amount of snow we've seen up in the Oregon Cascades the last 24 hours. They have been pummeled, and they're going to continue to get pummeled, John, into the overnight hours. Now, we do still have that weather impact alert throughout the Oregon Cascades until early tomorrow morning. Winter storm warning is in effect, but as we look at the radar, basically at one point the snowfall was so heavy it was anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of snowfall an inch per hour. So kind of gives you an idea just how impressive these amounts have been so far the last 24 hours. So we have that weather impact alert. It's been up since yesterday. It's now until Monday morning. Heavy snow and a little bit of some ice. So there will be definitely some slick roads out there. Even if there's not that much of ice, we're looking at close to a foot of snow in many locations throughout the Oregon Cascades, especially outside Mount Hood Meadows and Timberline Lodge the last 24 hours. So traveling will be pretty treacherous and difficult heading into the next couple of days, because we will see drier weather later on. Tomorrow we'll get a break from the snowfall, and then some heavy snowfall moves in as we get ready to wrap up 2024. So this purple color you see is the winter storm warning. That's in effect until tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. As we look at tomorrow, we're going to be starting things off right around 9 o'clock with more dry than wet conditions, but there will be scattered showers in the forecast a good portion of the morning and into the afternoon. By late afternoon or the evening, we'll start to dry out, and we go into Tuesday, we'll be waking up to some morning fog, and then again by the later part of the afternoon and evening, we'll be seeing some heavy showers and heavy snow showers throughout the Oregon Cascades. I'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.
All right, Joe, thank you. We'll see you later in the show. Well, new tonight, one person has been critically hurt and life-flighted to the hospital after a crash in Newburgh. Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue responded just after 1:30 this afternoon to Northeast Chehalem and North Valley Road. There they found a T-bone crash between a motorcycle and a car. The motorcycle rider was life-flighted. There were no other reported injuries. Several convicted criminals with a history of violent crime may be released early due to recent moves by outgoing Multnomah County District Attorney Mike Schmidt. Our Celine Stevens spoke with former prosecutors in some of these cases, as well as our future DA, who aren't thrilled about Schmidt's actions.
District Attorney Mike Schmidt only has a few days left to finish up his term before Multnomah County's new DA Nathan Vasquez takes office. Despite that, his office will ask the court Monday for the reconsideration of sentences and convictions for several criminals, some of whom have committed violent crimes, including felony murder, burglary, and assault.
If this was something that was so important and so valuable to do, this could have been done years ago.
With just days to go before his term as Multnomah County District Attorney ends, Mike Schmidt is asking a judge reconsider sentences and convictions for multiple convicted criminals. Those petitions filed just around a week before their hearings scheduled for Monday, December 30th.
This is clearly, I think, underhanded.
Total lack of transparency.
Those two men are retired prosecutors who prosecuted two of the individuals going before the court Monday. Chuck French prosecuted Shane Eberts, who as a teenager was part of a group responsible for beating two men in the head with a baseball bat.
David Clark's family went through a great deal of distress over this. He was in intensive care for weeks. He has permanent brain damage.
Eberts served his time and was released in 2003. Now, Schmidt and Eberts ask that his conviction be vacated and replaced with a lesser charge. Both victims are referenced in the petition and say they are against the removal.
In other words, it will make it seem like that never happened. And I think that's particularly hurtful to victims when they have kind of lifelong lasting impacts.
DA-elect Nathan Vasquez says he's not supportive of Schmidt's move. He and the prosecutors are also concerned the DA's office did not follow the rules of Senate Bill 819, which allows for the reconsideration of convictions and sentences.
It does say that victims need to get appropriate notice, and that means notice about the actual petition that's being filed.
But Eliza Kaplan, the attorney for some of the defendants, wrote in a statement that for the cases she's covering, original applications were submitted in 2023, and all victims and families were contacted when available. Vasquez and the former prosecutors also note these were not low-level crimes, with some of them even being for felony murder and burglary.
We're talking about home invasion burglaries on the elderly where they were sexually assaulted and beaten, and one was dead. One was killed as part of the burglary.
That case refers to Frank Swopes, who burglarized homes with an accomplice, with one ending in the victim's death and another in the assault of an old woman. He's completed his time for the murder, but still has time left for the burglary count. If resentenced, he would be released.
I just don't think Mr. Schmidt has a good grasp of these kinds of crimes. He never handled them.
Vasquez and the prosecutors say the issue isn't with SB 819, but with Schmidt's execution of this process.
I understand the law that allows someone to reconsider their sentence. It's the transparency problem and the ethics, of government officials.
I've reached out to the DA's office multiple times over the last few days to better understand why these petitions were filed so close to the end of his term, but have not heard back. The judge will decide Monday whether to grant these requests or deny them. As for Vasquez, he takes office on January 6th. Celine Stevens, KGW News.
All right, Celine, thank you.